First is the previous minutes. I'll entertain a motion to approve those if there's no questions or concerns.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, Rachel made the motion. Kua?
She was on for a second.
Oh, that's how it was.
We didn't have volume, Akua. Can you say it again?
She's muted again.
Can y'all hear me?
Okay,
Yeah.
now we can.
I can hear you. But I'm online too.
Kua, I had a motion from Rachel to approve the previous minutes. Are you a yay or nay?
Aye.
Okay.
I'm a yay.
Sarah?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay, next is the policy. We had nothing for the first read. Second read, we had, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Any discussion on any of those 4? Okay, entertain a motion to accept those 4 second reads.
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made the motion. Kua?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay, do we need to reprioritize anything?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. One, I just want to note that we have 2 spotlights tonight. It got left off from your agenda, but
It's on,
it is on there?
yeah.
Oh, I have Jesse and Enosburg.
Oh, sorry, it was on the first page. I missed it, sorry. So you have 2 spotlights. You have something under student that I'll ask to push to the end. You also have something from the union. You have a step 3 grievance
Okay.
that I'll ask to push beyond the student at the end. And that's it.
Okay. All right, recognition of the visitors. I see we have Susie here.
Hey, Marty.
Hi. Anyone else?
Nobody online.
Nobody online?
Yes.
All right. You have anything you want to say?
Yeah, so I've been talking to Morty since probably February about the Rural School Alliance, and he suggested maybe I should just come. And so the Rural School Community Alliance is a group that's been working really hard down in Montpelier to represent rural school interests as well as all schools, but particularly rural school interest in everything that's going on in the Senate and the House and the back and forth. I have a letter here that I was gonna give to Morty that they've suggested would be helpful. We're really in the 11th hour here, so I'm not sure how much help it will do at this point. But it's something that each of the board members can look over and either maybe if they feel comfortable doing on their own, or if the board felt comfortable doing together as a group. And then I have, this is an old April shout out looking for support for the Rural Alliance. Like I said, they've hired a lobbyist. They've raised about $40,000 that they've been working on, but it's not gonna end now. It's gonna continue on as things change. Literally, I've kind of stayed on the sidelines of this, but I've been getting emails like 5 or 6 a day. They've got people, boots on the ground, in the house, doing testimony, picking it apart. A scattering of teachers, ex-superintendents. John Castle is superintendent from North Country, that's head of this group called the Rural Alliance. And this is asking for support, which you can give, financial support. And the number of schools now involved is about 100. At this writing, it was 89. And your neighbors, MVU, their schools just joined as members of this alliance last week or the week before. So the bigger the number of schools involved, the louder the voice. You guys have the biggest impact. I think then Joe Schmo on the street giving a call, although it takes everybody. This is not the Vermont School Board Association, it's not the Superintendent's Association, it's not the NEA. It's community voices really speaking out in concern about what these changes are gonna do for their schools, and likewise from the schools, what it's gonna do for the communities, which is an old song I've been singing for a long time. that a lot of communities, their identification and connection is through the schools, and the schools also provide a lot in social services and contacts and families out in these rural areas where there's nothing else. So I just wanted to kind of bring it to the attention coming up in comment period. You probably can't act on it, but you could put it on the agenda to formally vote on that at the next meeting if you so choose. And so I'll leave this with you too, Marty. Anybody has any questions? I don't know if I can answer them, but that's about it.
Thank you, Susie.
Okay, thanks, Marty.
Okay, we'll go right on to the school spotlight.
I think we're first. Over the past few years, it's actually been 5 years now, we have been working with Christian Portamach, and he's a math specialist, and he's worked about numbered talks and all a variety of subjects throughout the year, and he'll go in classrooms and then talk with teachers about different aspects of math. Well, this year we did a deeper dive into that, and so Kim St. Pierre, who is my math interventionist here, is here to explain the work we did with Christian this year and the outcomes.
Yeah, so I was fortunate enough. I love listening to all of his presentations, and I went to every single grade level presentation that he did over 6 times. I think he had 6 visits throughout the year. So his focus was on rapid cycles of targeted instruction, and he did all of this work through a PLC. So it was really priming us up for how to do a really good PLC. So you can go on. So the how we did it, he came 3 days in a row. 2 days he met with grade level teams, so each grade level met with him. In round 1, in those 2 days, everyone was supposed to come with a task, a math task, but this could be literacy too. He was really good about pointing that out. This could be for any looking at data. They picked how they were going to sort it. Then they looked at the data, created the group, created the goal, and there's a specific format for that I think is another slide coming up. And then we picked the exit ticket that we would look at, and the goal is to do this one task, this one goal for each group of students. Everyone has a group that's on the team. We have an exit ticket, and short meaning like 4 weeks, 3 to 4 weeks, that we would exit students out of that. And some may exit out of it sooner than that. Then when we came back round 2, they would bring their small group task. We would do a quick check-in. How did students do? Did they make the goal? Did they not make the goal? And then we would come back and we would sort another piece of data and doing the same work again. And then we would plan for the teacher group, we would plan for my group, the special educators. If there were paraeducators in the room that we could use, we would plan a group for them. And then I think the next slide, Courtney. The targeted goals are very specific, narrow, and measurable, so they always start with a verb of what the student is going to be able to do using a strategy or a model. It could be either one, and then within what magnitude. So this was my first math goal, was that students can find products using arrays, decomposing within 50, using times 2, times 3, times 4. This was a 4th grade goal. And then each person, when they left, got a hard copy, and this is the next slide, I think, I remember. Got a hard copy because he feels like just a regular paper copy isn't going to be important. But if you've got a hard copy, it's a cardboard or thicker paper. Everybody left with what was our task that we did, what was our target going to be, who was going to be in your group, what was our timeline, and then just a short little place to keep track of when students were there, and just quick notes, progress notes for each student, and then what's the exit task that we're going to come back with, and most times it was the same task that we gave initially. And that's exactly, but we added, for this one we happened to add one other question to their task. We write their name, did they make it, and what would be the next steps for that student. And so every time all people left with this, with a responsibility to the group that they had. We also, so then on the third day, when he came, he actually went into each grade level. He went into one of the classrooms and he worked with a group of, one of the groups of students to show us what that would look like, to scale back on whatever the task was, to ramp back up to grade level, and how you could do that with each of those groups. And so he went into every single group every time. The last time that he came and worked with classes, we didn't look at data, we talked all about enrichment and how we can extend, so that we can meet the needs of all students, not just students who are tangled in math, but kids who have met their goals and need some sort of extension learning. So on the link, he also left us with an enrichment hub for our school. And so this is a kindergarten example, but it's kindergarten, grade 1, 2, 3, 4. So they're all about mathematical thinking and fluency. So they're all different, and mine is actually editable, so I've been adding to it so that as we get more, and he'll continue to add more. So there's one of these for every grade level.
So you can pick an activity
Yep.
if you clicked on one and have it right there for you.
Yep, and that day when he came to meet with teachers, we actually did like 15 different enrichment activities, and we found that most of them really only maybe needed a short instruction, and then you could assign it. Or you could make a packet of one thing that students could work through, and they're all like really thinking outside the box. They're not like a regular worksheet to extend. So these are great activities that actually many people went right back, like they're all, why didn't we have this at the beginning? But he has, he knew what he was doing. He saved this one for last. So now for next year, everybody has a way to extend learning for kids who need extension, but this is not just for, this could be for any student. Any
Or-
student at all.
And it can be like which one doesn't belong, can be your whole start of your catching
Yep.
like students' attention for math class. A lot of these are something different, are quick images that you do mathematical thinking. So it kind of hooks them into what they're doing. And they're a lot of fun too.
Yeah, and some he got from different places like Open Middle and other sites, Splat sites, but some he created. So he's sharing with us, and we have access to them now forever. So now we have the Bridges, the newer version of Bridges that we have now also has a really great resource for that extension activities as well. And then our last meeting with him, he did in pairs, so K1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and we talked about PLCs. And we really talked about like how is a PLC going to work? One, we have to know what is the PLC that I'm attending, what kind of a PLC is it, and how we can stay to the positive data culture. And I just thought this was such a great visual, like to have at every single PLC meeting. We need to know what outcomes are, what are our plans going to be, coming prepared with student work, being open-minded, being actionable, and taking ownership. It takes all of us to make all of this happen. And everybody the students are all of ours. So, and then from all of that work, I then created, I think the next one is our PLC agenda. So this is the 5th grade.
So we've always done PLCs for the past 5 years,
Yes.
but we always have math and a literacy PLC. We're gonna have a little bit different. We're still gonna have all that, but it's gonna be a little bit different focus. So you can.
Right, so this side bar, I think you minimized it maybe, Courtney, where it says 5. So each PLC, 2 PLCs will be about planning. So everybody knows on that PLC, you're gonna come with your planning, and then together we would look at, what are the obstacles that could happen? What are, for math, what are some models that kids need to understand and how to use. Same for literacy. And then at that math planning, so these are all the, this is what we're gonna do for each one.
And all
where-
our resources are up at the top. You'll see the Franklin Northeast curriculum site. Everything is just right at their fingertips.
Right, and if those are just ones I thought of. If teachers had others, they could put them there. He talked about having 2 roles, really, a note taker and a timekeeper, and I call them the note catcher and the focus keeper. So keeping us focused on what we're doing. So if we start talking about kids, we can say, oh, actually, look, we have a Kid Talk PLC where we're going to talk about kids.
Where we talk about kids at the PLC, but it's more about the instruction for the whole group, not individual kids. That's more our EST in this Kid Talk.
And then the math, and then we would choose what's the assessment that we're going to bring for math and for literacy. And so those are all, I just made several of them. And then the literacy unit planning is the same as the math assessment, what are we going to bring? What is our plan? What is everybody going to? And then I also put how to write the goals within the PLC. So that's under the math or literacy data PLC, so that they know those 2, we're looking at data. We're not planning, we're looking at data, and we're making groups. And then the last one is the Kid Talk, which I really like. Like we have ESTs, but we only talk about kids who are on ESTs. We don't talk about kids who are on IEPs, and it gets to be a lot. I think we can keep track of kids, talking about kids more efficiently when we have this PLC where we can call anybody into, we could have the behavior team come, we could have a special educators, whoever we need to be on that Kid Talk day. And we know that we're coming to talk and make a plan for them to be successful.
So the first, say it's a 3-week cycle, or so the first week would be you're talking about what you're going to be teaching and picking out the priority standards and picking out your assessment. The next week, next time you have math, which is every other week, literacy's the other weeks, you would pick, you would look at that assessment. So it's the data search, what we're doing.
This.
And then the next week would be the Kid Talk week of it. And so one week we have math, the next week they have literacy, and then math and literacy.
And we'll have to finagle it somehow so that not everybody's having Kid Talk in the same week, because that's going to be, that won't work. So we may have to put the Kid Talk in there in different places for different grade levels. So that was this was my big takeaway, like, well, how do we put it all together?
And I have to say, the teachers really were engaged and excited to have Christian come in. He's just amazing, and he worked with us with our Bridges program, so that, it's not a different resource, but he also added some resources we can do to build on the Bridges. So it was a great experience, and appreciate, everything he's done for us the past few years.
I got to observe a part of one of your meetings with Christian here, and he was very engaging, very in-depth work. Teachers were deep in thought, working hard, trying to make understanding of all of this. So.
Yeah, and I took
Thank you for
something
sharing.
away from, I went to every single grade level, every single one of them, and took notes from every one of them, so. If you're a principal here, I would consider bringing him in.
Yeah. When do you meet? When do you make all these meetings happen?
When we do PLCs, it depends on the grade level. I do 4 or 5, so one day is for, like this year, it was Wednesdays I did fourth grade, or 5th grade, Thursdays I did 4th grade.
Okay.
So every week it was
So
Wednesday,
it varies.
Thursday. And right
What
now,
grade level?
K1 is on Mondays, and one team would meet with the literacy team, the other grade level would meet with the math, and then the opposite week they would switch. So every week we're having a PLC, but this helps us know what kind of PLC is it? Is it we're going to plan and we're going to look ahead at what we need to make sure is the important things that we need to touch on? Is everybody clear? Is special educators, like how can we connect special ed to first instruction? How can we make sure that that tier 1 is being brought into tier 2 and tier 3?
So the PLCs are at different times. We really connected with the teachers, so it's their PLC really. And so we gave them options for times, and they picked the time that works best. So some wanted morning and some afternoon. It's different for everybody. But our EST is always weekly, and that was this year on Tuesdays.
And that it is next year on
Yeah.
Tuesdays.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Okay, next, the other school spotlight.
So we have Jessie Allen with us this evening. And her parents. We talked a little bit about Jessie last time because she substantially renovated our school courtyard and did some beautiful stuff. Jessie, would you like to make a little presentation?
Before Jessie gets started, I just want to remind the board, we have some new board members, but Jessie came to this board 3 years ago and made a pitch to this board about supporting her idea that she had for really an unused courtyard at Enosburg High School. So Jessie's graduating on Saturday, and she's going to share the outcome of that pitch that she had for you.
So, yes, hello everyone. I'm Jessie Allen. I'm a senior from Enosburg Falls. I came here my sophomore year, presented to the school board when I was just starting my renovations. So in some of these pictures you can see where all of this sod is, and there's a bunch of concrete. Do you want to share?
It looks so boring and plain that I forgot how boring and plain it was. Wow.
And as you can see, my 3D model I made sophomore year. That was my vision and what I was hoping to happen. And we removed all of that sod and we've filled it in with stone at this point. And we've put flowers in and made the space usable. I've gotten the majority of my funding through Farm to School. I got a Farm to School grant, so we put in raised beds in. So we're currently growing chives and we parsley in there, so the food classes can use them in the future. So yeah, we're installing useful features, but also features to make it look a little bit more alive than what it was before.
Jessie, can you tell us about that bench behind you?
Absolutely. So that bench was donated from Valley Quartz Repair, and I learned some new skills with that. I learned how to weld, which never would have guessed I could have done. But with the guidance of Jamie Valancourt, I got to learn some important lessons. And I had the vision of I want this bench to go around this tree, and then these bricks right here, they're actually based on donations. So I have some important people that have donated, as well as these rocks that you kind of see. Rise painted those, so they kind of have their own portion in the courtyard, and I'm going to encourage other classes and other programs to paint rocks and have a little bit of skin in the game almost. I'm currently talking to Miss Balasse, the chemistry teacher, about how she's going to plan on having a after-school program, something to do with the courtyard. So, yeah.
That's awesome.
Any questions?
It looks beautiful. That's great. Well done.
Yes.
It looks alive.
So before you go anywhere, a wonderful superintendent you may know had an idea that we might make a permanent marker for you in the courtyard. So I'm going to read this to you. You don't get to keep it because it's going to get mounted in the courtyard. But it says, in appreciation of Jessie Allen, EFHS class of 2025, for her vision and extraordinary effort in redesigning and remodeling this courtyard for the benefit of all members of the EFMHS community.
As you can see, it's been happening since sophomore year.
So Jessie, one of the things I want to point out is that this is project-based learning at its best. So you got to develop a ton of skills by doing this. Can you talk a little bit, just tell them a little bit about some of the skills that you feel like you got out of doing this?
So I've obviously gotten to learn how to weld and gardening features, which that's what I hope to pursue in my future. I hope to pursue a degree in horticulture and own my own greenhouse. So that's been super helpful in the landscaping feature. but I've also learned a lot of leadership skills. So I never would have imagined having a leadership role, but I've been FFA, so Future Farmers of America state president last year, and this year I was state reporter, and it's really like boosted my confidence, like really truly being able to see that my voice can make an impact and that I can make a change with my voice. So it's been awesome to see that my leadership matters and I can do things.
You had to work on some communication skills in there too, to pitch to this board to get them to support you. And I think you did some grant writing along the way.
Oh yeah, I would
as
never,
well, right?
never would have imagined doing that in my high school career, but here we are.
Well, we applaud you, Jesse. You've done a fantastic job, and your impact's going to last for years to come. So thank you for everything.
Thank you.
Thank you. Morty, we're on to you.
Okay, I can be relatively quick tonight. For FY25, going into the last 20 days of this fiscal year, I anticipate we will end the year with in the black, a little closer than in years past. Probably underspent by somewhere under $1 million, so 3 or 4%. Although this year you sent out a lot more tuition bills than you had in the past, so that will give you a little bit more of a fund balance, which we can discuss when we start building our FY27 budget. No update on the asbestos remediation. I think last month we shared the schedule with you, and we're still sticking to that remediation schedule. And then as we build the 27 budget, we will plan on tackling the other half of the asbestos in this building. In terms of the snack shack, unless Matt has an additional update, we have gone in and we've now got a safe, clean building spot for it. The boosters have been looking at an Amish shed as a solution for having a building there. I don't think they're at a point where they've got a request for the board yet, but I know those conversations between the boosters and Vern are continue to proceed.
One other thing is, in the whole process, they moved the school's light up sign.
I did notice that the other day at the
So
grandstand.
now it's on Main Street where people can see it, instead of on Dickinson Avenue, where you can only see it if you're going to the schools or to the field or a funeral. Yes.
And we are appreciative of People's Trust Bank that is,
Yes.
helped us with that. And then also Robert Jarvis was, really this was his vision. And every morning I look at it and I'm like so grateful that we did it because more people can see.
I agree. That's amazing.
I found it that day.
Did you?
Mort told me, he said, the sign looks great, and I said, what sign? I drove by it probably 10 times and I didn't see it until, it's a busy time of the year.
I never noticed anything and I noticed it right away.
I did
So did
not.
I.
Thank
I was
you,
having
Beth.
a dream, I was like, hey, we moved the signs.
Yeah.
No, you can't
Yeah,
miss
it's right
it
by,
now.
it's right
a
by
me
people.
thing, not a sign
right in front
thing.
of it, yeah.
And then the last update that I have for you is on Richford Elementary. Vern has been for a while wanting to change over the controls that control the HVAC system in both Richford Elementary and Richford High School. He has a quote for Richford Elementary to do that for just over $70,000. I don't think I need a motion to move forward with the project, but as you've done in the past, it would be great to have a motion to allow us to use capital reserve funds if needed to support that project. We will likely try to get as much billed and paid this fiscal year as we can, but going into next year, it would be nice to have that cushion if we have a tighter year in terms of tuition payments.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Joint motion.
Okay, Rich made the motion. Akua?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
And unless you have any questions, that's all I have for you tonight.
No, thank you.
Can I just confirm that that was RES Digital Controls?
Correct.
Okay, Lynn?
All right. had to restart my computer, so all the tabs I had open for this are gone. So let's hope I can read it on the screen. I can get there another way. You should open that because I know I will not be able to read the data from this far away. Okay, so we have a few things to go over tonight. I'll start with hiring and resignations. Principals, I may need your help on pronunciation of a couple of our names. So I'll start with new hires. So in bold, those are the new professional staff hires that I'll ask the board to make a motion to approve. So Rebecca Sylvester, Enosburg Elementary music teacher. Sean McLaughlin Dubois, grade 5, Enosburg Elementary School. Eliza Ligon, middle school social studies at Enosburg Falls Middle School. Justin Schwenk, I'm just going to tell you about Justin in the next part. He is the new assistant principal at Enosburg Falls Middle High School. Tim Stanley, the behavior systems coordinator at the middle high school. Maxwell Segala, flexible pathways coordinator at Enosburg Middle High School. Peter Wilson, high school English teacher. I'd ask the board to make a motion to approve those.
You have a motion to approve those?
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made the motion. Akua? Rachel?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Resignations, I'd ask the board to approve Annalise.
Annalise Chilio Perez.
Thank you.
I have a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Rachel made the motion. Sarah?
Aye.
Akua?
Aye.
Josh? I'm an aye.
We have some open positions, in case anybody is out there. Enosburg Falls Middle High School, SU grant-funded literacy interventionist position that's been open for a year or two. We have not been able to fill that. Guidance director, we have also not been able to fill for a few years. Looking for a math teacher, school nurse, and a part-time theater teacher. At Richford Elementary School, we still have a school counselor position open. That's been a position that's been difficult to fill. This is the third year there as well. We have a pre-K paraeducator position there and a long-term art substitute teacher position. At Richford Junior Senior High School, the part-time theater teacher is also open there, and part-time school librarian. You do have, for action, 2 unpaid leave requests. Both are teachers. Irene Rippon from Richford Junior Senior High School is requesting 2.5 days unpaid, and Caroline Luce, Enosburg teacher, 1 day unpaid. So I'd ask the board to make a motion to approve those.
Any discussion on that?
No.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make the motion.
Sarah made the motion. Akua?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
So we're going into summer, and we still have a fair number of open positions. Principals have done an amazing job of getting positions filled pretty quickly. We're now getting down to the place where there are fewer candidates for some of the remaining positions. I will say we do still have some international teacher candidates, and at the same time, we're hearing that there is a pause on them processing any of those work visa applications. So even though that has been a useful strategy for us in the past, it looks like that might not be as fruitful for us given what's going on. So I will ask the board to make a motion to grant me the authority to hire and fill positions over the summer and report back to the board in the fall.
Okay, you have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Rachel made the motion. Akua?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
So assistant principal, so we were excited to hire Justin Schwenk. Justin is moving his family here from Indiana. He has he's been a long time high school teacher who has had several leadership roles in his school and in his community, and he has just finished his leadership program and he's ready to jump into the administration realm. So Justin and his wife, who will be working for us as a special educator, are moving here in a couple of weeks. We're very excited, very highly recommended. One thing that really stood out to us about Justin is that he is very committed to community engagement, and when people described his teaching and the way in which he engages students in relevant, rich, and community-based experiences, it feels like a really good match for what we're looking for within our system. So we're excited to welcome Justin and his family, who 2 of his kiddos will be our students. So
It's exciting.
very lucky to find him. The student piece, we will save that to the end. Next up, I want to introduce the board to district quality standards. So I've talked to you all, I think, a little bit about education quality standards. We haven't gone very deep at the board level about that, but that's work that we are held accountable for. Every year I have to sign assurances that we're meeting our education quality standards. For the past 5-ish years, those standards have been in a revision process. They are now finalized, and effective July 1, new education quality standards are going live. So we're working to make sure that we're going to be ready to meet all of those expectations. We've been a part of, some members of our team have been a part of development, and we've been keeping ourselves informed along the way, so we're positioned really well. It's not different than the work we're already doing. We did some work with a group of teachers. We also did some work with our leadership team to look at all those new education quality standards and identify where is it that we're already doing work connected to those standards. And it was really clear to everyone who was doing that we're positioned well. We still have some places to work, but we're positioned pretty well. So those education quality standards are developed and monitored by the Vermont State Board of Education, and that's typically where rulemaking happens. This is different. The district quality standards are something brand new. These are not state board rules. These are Agency of Education rules. Again, this is not typically how we get rules. So I will ask Courtney to jump in. I don't know if I ever changed that link, Court.
Yes, district.
Okay. So if you could, in a minute I'll have you go. These district quality standards are also live on July 1, 2025. The Agency of Education, I was there a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking about how they'll be monitoring for district quality standards. I'm previewing this with all of you because you will have a self-assessment component that I will be bringing to you in August and in September. So if you could scroll, we're going to go a little bit quickly here. We're not going to go through the whole document, but I want to give you the headers. So keep going. Courtney, we're going to go all the way to where the first category, right there, business operations. So the first section is going to be about business and operations. I'm just going to read can you hold on? There we go. Budgeting and accounting. I'm just going to read the header so that you have some idea of where they're going with this. Risk management, internal controls, personnel management, and then data management. The next section that we'll be assessing is facilities management and safety. So there's a whole section on facilities management, and there's another whole section on facilities safety. Then governance priorities. This is, I think, where most of your work is going to be. And this is where you'll be asked to do your part of the self-assessment. So you'll be looking at governance protocols, governance processes, and then there will be, under the quality assurance section, this is where the review process is kind of outlined. So there'll be self-assessments, self-evaluations related to our performance in each of these areas. And in the self-assessment piece, Even though those education quality standards that I talked about are state board rules, where the agency doesn't really monitor, they have put components from the education quality standards into the district quality standards. So they'll be monitoring those components of the state board rule through the district quality standards. So that will be a part of what we're looking at. And so a lot of those things look familiar to you because we've been talking about those. They line up with the Act 173 work we've been doing for multiple years. All the work on curriculum, proficiency-based graduation requirements, needs-based professional learning, reviewing our teacher evaluation process, MTSS work, in instructional materials and assessment plan. So those in our continuous improvement plan, those are okay for us. Like, we're in good shape with all of those. Then there is another way that they're going to monitor. There's going to be a 3-year intermediate review. So they will have teams. The way it was described to me is they will have teams that will push into districts and they'll do a deeper audit of looking at evidence for how we're meeting each of those quality standards. So it was a little bit unclear how they were going to determine which schools get chosen for the first round, but every school will be somewhere in that 3-year round. This next section is something that I have not seen worded this way in the past, and this is enforcement. There's enforcement authority given to the Agency of Education in Vermont state statute. This enforcement is directly connected to the district quality standards. So this was something that they talked a little bit about intervening. If they find things that are not in place, they give you a couple of years corrective action. You're going to need to fix it. If at the end of those 2 years you have not fixed what they wrote you up for in corrective action, then there'll be enforcement measures that they have talked about utilizing with districts. Some of these will be difficult for some districts to meet. Some of the facilities requirements will be very difficult for some districts to meet, as one example. So you can imagine that we might get to a place where some boards will have to make difficult decisions about, we can't meet this unless we bond, and our community's not going to support a bond, and then the board's going to have to figure out what are we going to do. In the absence of that, the agency may step in and decide for you what you're going to need to do. The other piece of this that they talked about was public accountability. So all of this is going to be public facing. So the self-assessment that comes from our office in terms of the back office pieces and the school safety and the facilities, that'll be front facing, as well as the board self-assessment. They also will be front facing that audit that you get every 3 years. So that will all be somewhere on the website. So this is very different than what we're used to. So we're going into this just eyes wide open. This is going to trigger some work for all of us. And I'll come back to you with this in August. I did at least push on the original idea a couple months ago was we're going to have boards do this in July. And we all said, no, boards really need not to be working in July. So August, September. And there will be rubrics. The rubrics are in draft form right now. I can't share them. They literally were fixing them live when they were receiving feedback. So they said those would be out in a week. And that was about 2 weeks ago. So I'll let you know when those are released. And I will send those to you over the summer so that you can see those. Any questions on the district quality standards? Okay. Now, at our last meeting, I had intended to go over some data with this board, and I had messed up on when the window for assessments closed for spring assessments. So now I actually have data for you. So I'm going to start with looking at our SEL walkthrough data. And I want to talk about SEL because I think social emotional learning is a term that kind of is getting swallowed up in a political narrative. And I want to be transparent about what that looks like. So this is a summary of classroom routines and procedures that we have focused on across the supervisory union. So Callie Goss, she's our part-time coordinator. She works about half-time. Works with a team of about 30 teachers from across the district, and they created a walkthrough process so that they can have some look-fors in the classroom to see if we're putting some things in place in terms of social emotional learning. So the tool is linked there. You all have access to this if you want to dig in and see what the tool looks like. It's closely, it's adapted from the CASEL standards, which are those standards, the social emotional learning standards that we built our priority standards around. They're kind of the national gold standard of social emotional learning standards. They've gone in and observed, they randomly selected 43 classrooms across the supervisory union to observe across all 9 of our schools, and they spent 10 to 15 minutes in every classroom just gathering data on the things that they were charged with observing for. You can see some data. These are teacher indicators of teachers using social emotional learning and practicing some skills or changing their practice. So they were looking for, are you greeting students? Do you have opening routines that welcome and prepare students for the lesson? Are directions clear and are they bite-sized? Is the teacher checking for student understanding? Are they using proximity by moving around the classroom? Are they using anchor charts and agendas? How's the classroom organized? Is it accessible? Are they cueing and modeling for what's coming next? Are students' voices included, and is there opportunity for reflection? Redirecting, modeling, practicing routines, and then having a wrap-up at the end of the lesson. So those all seem like good practice, right? Those are building social emotional skills. Like teachers are creating safe classrooms where students feel a deeper sense of belonging so that they are welcome and ready to engage in their learning. Then they observed for student indicators, and here are the kinds of student behaviors that they had agreed that they were going to look for. Are students transitioning with minimal support? Are they understanding the academic routines? Are they self-correcting using their resources? Are they asking clarifying questions? Do they know how and where to access resources in the classroom? And are they assuming responsibility for the materials in their space? So those are the things they look for in the students. So I shared all of that explicitly because I'm hoping to disrupt some of the misconceptions around what social emotional learning actually is, because it is really essential for students to be able to have these skills in order to be successful with the academics. You also can dig in and look at some of the things that the students said. They asked this question when they were in there, can you tell me the steps for this part of your day and how do these help you to learn? And I'm going to start with the top left, and I'm just going to read one comment to you. You can go in and look at the rest of them. This was in a pre-K through 2 band. A student said, we learn about a lot of new things. We learn about being considerate and that you can use courage to be considerate. After Leader and Me, we have Number Corner. It helps me to get ready to learn because breakfast helps my brain learn, and it makes your brain start working because in math we have a lot to learn because we're in 1st grade. So pretty intuitive. Kids are really thinking about what they need to be ready for the learning, and that's the goal of this work. In the other data, their Wayfinder is the tool that was selected by this team of 30 teachers 2 years ago. They spent time looking at a variety of tools, and there was common agreement that teachers wanted a tool. They did not know how to teach social emotional learning without having a resource tool in which to do it. So Callie put this together for you so that you could see the total number of lessons across the supervisory union that were viewed, how many active educators we had, how many average views per educator we had in there. And then there are some waypoint is the assessment that was given this year, and that was given 1 time. Next year there'll be 2 times. So in grade K through 2, the educators completed the assessments. That was 79% completion rate there, 83%. Those were completed by students in grades 3 through 12. The most common top skill on those assessments was purpose. So the definition of that is your decisions and interactions with the world are guided by a deep connection to your values. And that was a top skill that people reported on. And a common growth skill with this data was about self-awareness. You understand yourself on many levels, from how you function to what nourishes and sustains you. And adaptability as a growth area, defined as you're willing to try again when you make mistakes and are comfortable navigating uncertain situations with flexibility and openness. There were some shout outs that Callie put in here. You can see the usage numbers, the average usage numbers by school. She had some school highlights. Enosburg Falls Middle High School had the highest engagement volume with 4,588 total lessons viewed. Strong leadership usage from Heather Hawkins, sustained monthly collaboration, SEL planning routines at all staff meetings. That was collaboration with Callie. Richford Junior Senior High School had strong individual champions with Alyssa Valander and someone named Zachary Greenwood. And then 1,289 total lesson views and activity views. And their unique growth skill at Richford was collaboration. That was a top skill for them. In Enosburg Elementary School, excellent 3 through 5 waypoints, completion at 98%. Growth skills were adaptability and self-awareness. And at STEPS, I'm not sure why RES is not in there, Kelly. I'm sorry, I didn't notice that until just now. Katie Thompson was a strong individual champion. She's the one that uses this tool at STEPS. And they have created a specialized program model specifically for that program.
I can say why we're not in there.
Okay.
Because we use Leader in Me
Gotcha.
lessons. So our teachers go in and will access some of the activities, but we don't access
That's
the
why.
lessons because we use Leader in Me.
We made that agreement at the beginning of the year.
And I think our numbers are lower for one reason, because Alyssa Valander will do the plans and give it to the, so it doesn't look like everybody's clicking into the.
Oh, she's giving it to
And
them
we
a hard
have the
copy.
same thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Janessa.
So, depends on how you use it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So district agreements at the start of the year were that we would do one core lesson every week. For middle and high schools, this occurred within an advisory time, so a variety of teachers were given that. And then that there would be one additional activity per week for elementary schools. And I think in almost all, if not all, the one core lesson was taught by the school counselors, and then the one additional was taught by the classroom teachers. And that they would do the waypoints assessment one time in the year. So, any questions on the Wayfinder data?
I just want to thank the middle school and high school for how they set up the structure, and it made me rethink. They give the teachers planning time. Is it weekly, Matt?
Yes,
To-
no, it's
Monthly, right?
every 3 to 4 weeks,
Yeah.
but it's
So
for about
monthly.
40 minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and so we're gonna adapt that in our staff meetings, time for teachers to actually really focus on going Wayfinder and finding their lessons together.
And will that be time for the school counselors and the classroom
Yep.
teachers to co-plan?
Yeah.
Great.
And I think I added in that into the kid talk, like how can we use SEL to meet some of these needs?
That's great. So the last bit of data, I feel like I need to give you a little bit of a warning before we get in there. There are some problems with this data that we haven't figured out. So I'm gonna let you just take a quick look through the data. Gab and I were talking before the meeting, we're gonna commit to bringing this STAR data back in August because there are some quirky things. So if you go in there, Courtney, let me just describe what you see when you're looking in there. This has to do with the STAR assessment. And this red is fall, blue is winter, green is spring in the STAR assessment. And the STAR assessment gets progressively more challenging as the year goes through. And so you're looking at how did they perform based on meeting or exceeding the proficiency level. So those are the percentages of students that were at or above proficiency level. Enosburg Middle School. This is Richford High School. There's a problem with grade 8. We don't know why grade 8 is reporting there, and we don't know why it looks, we think there's only a few students in there. There's an error there. And there's a participation, we want to crosswalk it with participation because there was some participation data that makes that look funny. Next is Enosburg High School math, and then Richford Junior High School math, and then you will see Richford Elementary math and Enosburg Elementary math. So you can take this, then it goes into high school reading and high school math. So you can take this and you can dig in. We're going to give you a corrected version in August. Know what we're looking for. We want to see escalating growth in that. And these are the types of tools that our teacher teams are using to dig in and say what are the skills that students are missing so that they can target some of that intervention. It kind of goes with what Kim and Jen were sharing, like digging in and looking at what does that data mean for kids and what do they need next to continue to grow.
Lynn, I think you made a good point in saying that the STAR progresses, and so by each time you take it, it has higher expectations. So that's something to keep in mind. So the growth might not look great there, but it actually is larger than it looks.
And I think that's another factor that we have not brought to the board, but that's something that all the principals are really looking at. So they get down to the student level and they look at what's the scale score that the student has from fall to spring. So you're looking at, you might have a student that is below proficiency, like way below in the red in the fall, and they may gain a ton, but they're now in the high end of that lowest category. And then the next time they might be in the yellow, and then they might be approaching, but they're still not going to hit that, even though they might have made a year and a half's progress for that year of instruction. So know that this is big, broad data, and principals are drilling in much more down to a much smaller grain size at the student level and really trying to understand student growth patterns.
And Leah and I are trying to triangulate this data with the MyView data and some of the other information that we have to see if it's consistent, if there's problems, like sometimes it's the test or sometimes maybe it's the pacing of how the units went. Maybe they didn't get to that subject, that topic.
That's another good point. I'm glad you brought that up because this was also our first year with a brand new literacy program, so we know the pacing was off this year with our literacy program, as there's a pretty steep learning curve when you shift to a new program. So we're hoping that next year our pacing is going to be much better and that people will be much more likely to make it through to all of the units before the end of the year.
And I think the big value in this program is that you get to see the student growth. So it's hard to see that there, but like Lynn said, you could be a red now and be a high red now. And so in my board report, I had put the student growth, which is very important in this process.
Any questions? And then I don't have anything more now. We'll get to the video at the end. If you want to go to principals.
Do you want to do the video before or after executive?
Probably before, and then we'll cut the principals loose. Most of them.
Most of
Are you wanting us to say something?
Principal's reports.
Oh wait. Sorry. I didn't have it in the notes, so I almost zoomed past. Gab is here, along with Adria, to talk about Portrait of a Learner work.
As part of the data spring review.
So sorry, yes.
It's okay. I was like, oh, did not for nothing. Poor Adria.
No,
sitting
it's
here.
okay.
So Lynn asked me to sort of report out on the Portrait of a Learner implementation. I'll just start with this first quote that kind of I want to remember. Angela Duckworth does a lot of work with grit and growth mindset. You might have heard of her. And this quote reminds me of this year. Nobody wants to show you the hours and hours of becoming. They'd rather show you the highlight of what they've become. So a lot of times you don't see all the struggle that happens as you're trying to get somewhere. Before you go to the next slide, what's that?
So it sounds like Facebook.
Yeah, exactly. Only show the good stuff, right? Before we move on to the next slide, it would be helpful if everybody could just like think about something in your life or in your kid's life that has been really hard to learn.
Portrait of a learner.
Just kind of get that in your head. Portrait of a learner can be it. It can be something simpler, more concrete as well. Okay, go to the next slide. Mine's a bike riding experience. It was super hard for me to learn to ride a bike. These are not me, but they're AI generated me's because I don't have pictures. I don't think my parents were wanting to document that time in my life when I was learning to ride a bike. It was pretty rough. So you can see sort of the process of that early screaming fit that I'm having on the bike, and then to now I have an e-bike. I like to ride around, and I've gone through several iterations in college. I rode my mountain bike everywhere. It was like my thing. But a lot of times when I'm thinking about change and learning and proficiency, I come back to like thinking about bike riding. So I'm just putting that analogy up there so I can reference it as we sort of talk about how implementation has been this year. Go ahead.
Oh, this is me. So
Not yet. Let me explain it, and then I'm going to say a few more things, and then I'll put you to work. So these are two images, and I actually created that third image. The first image is sort of thinking about the change process, and I presented both of these images to the staff at the beginning of the year. Change can be really hard, and it generally looks like this. You're in a deep hole, and then eventually you come out. Learning looks a lot like that. Bike riding was rough for me in the beginning, got to the bottom, but I climbed my way out. Now I'm pretty good at it, and I keep getting better. And then another image that I think is important to think about is how we think about proficiency. So if you think about a skill throughout your learning it, you start off kind of rough and you get good at it. But like in bike riding, you might be riding on a flat, initially you're just riding on flat ground. There's no traffic, no distractions. And then you get better at it and you're like, okay, I'm gonna try the road. And then you gotta deal with distractions and you might go down in your proficiency. Ultimately, you're going in the up direction, but it kind of goes up and down as you're getting good and not good, and as you're getting better and making things more complex. So just keep those images in mind as we're kind of talking about the work that we did this year with Portrait of a Learner. So the teacher work that we set out to do was we focused on assessment. We wanted teachers to align their existing summative assessments, if possible, to the indicators. So if you normally did an essay and you graded it, what indicator might that essay align with? Then we asked them to adjust their summative assessments to make them more experience-oriented, bigger projects that used more skills and allowed students to kind of put together multiple skills into one experience. We asked them to increase relevance and create authentic opportunities if possible. So that's something that we focused on. And then we wanted students to create evidence for the foundational 8 indicators, and teachers reviewed the evidence and calibrated their understanding. So we packed a lot into this year. We were not successful at all of these things. I think we're still sort of in the pit with a lot of them and working through them, but we did a lot of work. The work we asked students to do was to create evidence for those foundational 8 indicators. You can go to, submit evidence for approval, and then engage in their personal learning plan process and kind of try, we ultimately want to try to see the connection between those things. So that students are empowered to actively engage in learning, independently make decisions, and find joy and relevance in their educational experiences in an environment where they feel safe and a deep sense of belonging. And I just want to make a connection with Jessie's presentation. Jessie is the end goal. She's an example of flexible pathways experience, start to finish. She's getting indicators. She's been working on Portrait of a Learner indicators this whole time. and creating evidence through her project. And that is ultimately, she's a very good example of somebody who's at the other end of that pit, and really experiencing the benefits of it. It was a lot of hard work to get there. I should have probably asked her some questions about the hard work, because I don't think it was easy in the beginning, and I think she had a lot of struggles along the way.
Just want to make a connection because there's some new board members that may not know this. So we have had students graduating with Portrait of a Learner for several years in the pilot program in the Flexible Pathways Academy. And they have, now it's scaling up into this year's freshman class into the 2 high schools. So Jessie has done this all the way through.
Right. She's one of the, I think we've had 20 students graduate. Okay, next slide. Here are some examples of assessments that that teachers created and the indicators that they're associated with. So, music example, guitar blues riff self-reflection, that was for Reflect and Learn, and you've got a recipe for growth journal, that was a foods experience. Also for Reflect and Learn, we've got manage responsibilities represented, research effectively, conduct investigations. I'm gonna have you just click on that TED Talk one. I just want to show you 2 examples of what these assessments might look like. This is a TED Talk example. The teachers put together sort of the whole experience. This is a handout for students, the expectations, and if you can just scroll through. She's got the students working through kind of a process about how they're going to get to their idea for their TED Talk, and then some guiding questions. Keep going.
That's it.
That's it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
On this document, yes.
really?
Yeah.
There's a second page to that, must be. Okay, apologies.
Oh.
Yeah, there it is. I knew there was something
Sorry,
else.
it was not
There
scrolling.
definitely was. And then she's helping them narrow the field and go through that whole process of developing the TED Talk, choosing the project, and then I think is there one more page? Just so you have an idea of like what it might what an assessment experience might look like. This is an example.
The teacher doing the assessment?
The teacher has created, yes, so the teachers created these assessment opportunities.
Okay.
And then this is what the students get. So she's aligned this with I think this is communicate effectively, yeah, communicate effectively. So she looked at the indicator, she looked at the requirements for the indicator. They did a lot of work pulling those apart and creating success criteria. And then she organized this to align with the indicators.
When I hear of this Portrait of a Learner and the indicators and everything on paper and hearing it, it sounds absolutely perfect, right? Like our students are pulling everything out, and this is a personal experience that I'm sharing with using this. And I do have a daughter in the freshman class, and we've hit this point in the year, and she's like, "Mom, I didn't make my indicators." She goes, "I don't have any of them. I feel like I'm gonna fail." So and I know you're saying it's a learning process, and we're doing it are they doing this consistently and checking through the year with the indicators? Or is this something that happens at like the end of the year, like now? Like would this happen early on, in the middle?
It really should be happening throughout.
Okay.
But I do think it was a slow start, so
Okay.
I'm not gonna say that that every single teacher was consistently doing this.
Okay.
From the beginning of the year on, but they should have multiple experiences. We've set out like 4. So the Enosburg teachers have been doing some work this spring, and it's 4 experiences they're planning for, so throughout the year, so for a year-long course.
Okay.
About 4 opportunities to kind of pull the learning
And
together.
they can use one assignment for multiple indicators, correct?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay, that was my
This
other-
could potentially, depending on what it is, might require some research, so they'd have to look at the indicators, but teachers were asked to focus on those foundational 8 this year to really get a handle on how do we do this, how do we align them, and practice with that. I'll talk a little bit more about how we're gonna manage the situation if kids didn't get them, and so will Adria.
Just to separate that a little bit though, before you do, it's, I think, tempting to conflate it with credits.
Yep.
So like if you didn't earn a credit your freshman year, you have to retake a whole class your sophomore year to earn that credit, and that isn't the case in this. So they have some experiences with the indicator, and with that indicator they can, maybe they're missing this part of the indicator, so they can keep working at it along the way, but it's not like a whole year's worth of work to try to be proficient with it. Does that make
It's not like they
sense?
have to redo the class.
Right.
But we'll talk about that, I'll get there at the end. Uh-oh, doing both things. Can you go back to the presentation? Yeah, I hope my computer doesn't completely die here. One other example of the math example, passing time task. This is a mathematical modeling one, and it's in the quotes is the task. So this is a task that students did in order to meet the mathematical modeling indicator, and they were just given the task, and then the teacher sort of outlined a process for getting there, but the kids kind of had to come up with their own process. So currently, the passing period is 3 minutes. Your task is to use mathematical modeling to understand how students use their time during passing period and to make recommendations to the principal about the amount of time needed for students to reasonably travel to their next class. So a little bit of relevance there, a little bit of like authentic work. So I'm working on it. So those are a couple examples. So Adria, I asked Adria to join because she wears a lot of hats. She's a parent of a 9th grader as well. She's a special educator. She's done a lot of work aligning her summative assessments to Portrait of a Learner and really digging into that, and creating experiences and some project-based work. And
She's a representative on the Teacher Advisory Council to the superintendent.
so she has a lot of perspectives, and I'm just gonna ask her to kind of share her, she's in the pit, I think, right now a little bit. But she's not climbing back out to the left, she's more like moving towards the.
Yeah, so I wear a lot of hats. I have met with Gabby many times for support as a parent, for support as an educator, to support me, to support my students. And so she came in one day and she's like, can you present this at the board? And I was like, oh, absolutely, I'm going to do this. And then she left and I'm like, I don't know why would she want me to do this when I'm constantly asking her for more knowledge or support, or am I doing it right? And then she's like, I'm going to send you the slide, and she sent me this. I'm like, oh, well, that's why she wants me to talk about it, because that guy down at the bottom there who's scrambling is me, and many of us, I think. So I'll start with my educator hat. Like, we are in that pit, and it's chaos, and it's scary, and it's frustrating, and it's really uncomfortable. And so I will say, me personally, I have gone back up the other way a couple times and screwed up, but I kind of kept going and kind of kept just trying to understand. And I looked at this image and I'm like, all right, I need to kind of really unpack it for a way for everyone to experience it the way I have. And I'm like, okay, so I'm a writer. When I unpack something, I write about it. So I wrote like five pages of writing just on this image in front of me, and I'm like, no one wants to hear that, but I'll pull a little bit from it. And so being in the pit, I've sat and I'm like, how long am I going to be here? I don't, there's really not an answer for that, but I also see, as much as I see chaos, I see growth and change. So, because you see on the other side, you're growing, you're changing, you're adapting. And that doesn't happen if you stand still. I think if any of us have gone through any sort of change, if we're standing still, we're not really changing. We just have to keep moving and keep persisting forward. And as an educator, I've sat with my students and we've screwed it up. And then we've gone back in and we've looked at it again, and we've tried another way, or we've met with Gabby, and we fixed it, and we kind of persevered, and that was a super successful moment. We're like, oh my gosh, look at this, we're moving forward. And I think that's kind of the power of the POL is it allows you that privilege to kind of make mistakes and then find the relevance in your students' learning. And so rather than kind of chasing a grade, if you will, we're teaching the skills to persevere. And I think that's a really important thing too, is the language that we're using as educators. We want to see our students using that same kind of resilience, perseverance. We're creating just everyday learners, problem solvers. What do we want them to be as people? Not just performers. We want them to be just resilient human beings and develop some strong characteristics in the process. So that is kind of, as an educator, what I've pulled out of those two images is it's so important the way that we're communicating to our students and supporting them in this new process, because they're in that uncomfortable place too. And we're with them, and it's our job to give them the skills to kind of work their way out of it and keep moving. So I'll take my educator hat off for a minute and put my mom hat on. And for example, my daughter came home just last week and she was behind on ELA, and this wasn't the first time. And she's missing assignment. She hasn't finished the book. And I'm like, son of a, it's like there's 7 days left of school. Like so I picked up Of Mice and Men and I read the novel, and we sat down at the counter and I'm like, all right, we're going to unpack the theme of friendship, and we're going to answer these questions that she has to answer, and we'll help you get caught up, and we're going to persevere through this. And you're like, oh, what a great bonding experience. It was not great. It was miserable. She could not find relevance in what we were doing. I had pulled her from the horse barn, sat her butt at the counter, and I'm like, I don't care if you don't like it, find the answer. And I'm like, okay, here's our problem. She loves horses, she loves real estate, she's creative, she's an entrepreneur, she's funny, she's kind, she's outgoing, she's outspoken. Sitting at the table answering these questions about this book is really difficult for her. And so I thought to myself, I'm like, how can I take this standard, like analyzing complex characters and the course of a text, and how can I align it with the POL? And okay, so that's obviously me taking my parent hat off and putting my educator back on. Puts me in the special position. I have that ability to do that. And I was like, what can we do here? And I'm like, so instead of answering all these questions, I'm like, well, why don't you design me a real estate brochure of the bunkhouse that Lenny and George lived in and sell me that living arrangement? And then I want you to look at how in the 1930s, like, how might that be a little bit difficult for these people to engage in this sort of process of buying real estate? And then let's look at George and Lenny's idea of like their dream of owning a farm. Well, how is that difficult for a migrant worker during the Depression? Like, how might they be able to buy this barn? So we chatted about this, and finally I had some buy-in, and she's like, she says to me, you know how I work with neurodivergent students, anybody who doesn't know that about me? She's like, when your students came to the barn, wouldn't it be cool if Lenny could have gone to a barn like that and done some horse therapy with them? I'm like, yes. You're pulling the relevance. I'm like, can you write about it? How might he have, what do you think might have changed for him if he had that sort of supportive feature in his life? So I think that's how we keep the standard relevant to our learners, and that's how we meet our learners where they are. And I think that's the biggest piece of the POL that makes it so powerful. And again, I understand like this uncomfortable zone that we're in and this uncomfortable dip, and it's uncomfortable for me as a parent because I'm same like you said, I'm like, you only have these amount of indicators and you're supposed to have 8. That's okay. She can keep adding to them. It just provides kind of a framework for them to find relevance in their learning. And then in a year's time, 2 years, 3 years down the road, when they are proficient in adding their evidence and talking about kind of their reflection of what they've learned, they can kind of peek back at what they're, as a freshman, oh wow, look at that, look how much I have grown as a learner, and it's all there as a almost like a pretty map of growth.
It's like a teaching portfolio.
It
You
is.
take your
It
work and
is.
you're meeting
It
the standard.
shows growth. It shows.
I just going back off. I'm not trying to interrupt you here, but I'm going off your bike analogy. The way she explained it is perfect. I just wish every freshman teacher could do this, because you talk about your bike analogy. Your parents didn't just put you on the bike without help. They were there helping you. These freshmen need their teachers on board, and everything she just said, we need our teachers with that same confidence and understanding this, because they're scared, and they need the teachers to be as fluent in this as you are. And I think as a parent, wearing my parent hat, that's where I'm at, is just, we've lost a lot of freshman teachers this year, and I think it's scary for them, and I just think they need that reassurance.
And I agree.
Yeah.
I think that as a parent, that has been one of the hardest things that I have had to support through, is just trying to use that mentality of growth rather than chaos, and taking that stance of being that kind of pillar of, hey, let's keep moving forward, and if we screw up, that's fine. And not bringing that chaos onto the students, and I do agree that has happened. I think we all can.
I think we can name something. So on the very bottom left, I think the first word is resistance, as they fall off the cliff.
Yes.
And then it goes to chaos. Yep. And I think we could all name that we experienced that in the fall. Like was not the first time that people engaged with this idea of Portrait of a Learner. We've been working towards this for many years, and then it went live, and then it got scary for everybody, because it was like, oof, I've got to do something different now. This is not out there in theory. We've got to do something different. So we definitely started with that resistance, and then the chaos and the scramble at the bottom. The hope is that we're moving our way up. There's much more prep that has been done now for next year. I had a conversation with a school counselor, email conversation earlier this week about how can we welcome ninth graders differently this year versus last year, because it was a growth experience for all of us as we navigate this. I think personally, am I stealing your thunder? I think personally, one thing that is becoming more evident, if people have picked their heads up and they're looking out around us, we are not on an island doing this. There are 5 other states that have already adopted this kind of a stance as a full state. They're moving in this direction. New York State, which has had very strict graduation requirements, the kids had to pass their Regents exam, has just made a giant shift to a Portrait of a Learner proficiency-based system. Those are their graduation requirements as we shift forward. So I think people are starting to go, okay, maybe this isn't so crazy. This is the work that schools around us will be doing to prepare kids for the future. We're a little bit ahead of it, and that's an okay place for us to be. We're going to keep working at it, and we're going to get it right, because our kids need us to.
That's all.
Thanks for sharing that experience. So we've got some next steps. I think we learned a lot this year. We've got a lot of work to do. We have a plan for K-8, the K-8, implementing at the K-8 level, and we're going to focus next year on instruction. So I think that kind of gets to your point. We're going to spend a lot of time in instruction. So we spent most of our time on the assessment piece this year, and next year we're going to focus on instruction, at least at the SU level. And I'm going to work with principals over this at our summer leadership to kind of coordinate so that whatever we do at the SU level is supporting what's also happening on the ground. Make sure that that's really aligned. I think we agree that communication, both for parents and students, that we need to level that up a little bit. We created a lot of communication, and I'm not sure we did a super great job of making sure that it got out there and in the right ways. So we have a lot of stuff, but we need to do a better job at getting it out there. We probably need to do some work with our PLP implementation and really making the connection between the high school experience, the indicators, you know, what kids are actually doing, that whole creating evidence and improving, like that's all related to the personal learning plan. And they're not showing a lot of agency around that, and that's related to the PLP process, so I think we can tighten that up a little bit. We're making some changes for SU in-service around logistics to make the pace a little better, to make the communication with teachers a little better, and to make that time as useful as possible. At least at the SU level, we only have those 4 days, so it's really limited time. We need to use it really effectively. And then increasing the authenticity and scaling up Expo, because that adds a lot of authenticity to the work that the kids are doing on the ground. So those are sort of the next steps. And I put a few resources in there for you all. These are some of the materials that we created this year for both teachers and outward facing. So the first one is a toolkit that we've created over the year for teachers with teacher resources, and I think if you have an FNESU email, you'll be able to get in there to see all the tools that we've created and are continuing to create. So there's some things that are in the works, like model banks. So those examples that I showed you are gonna end up being models, so teachers can reference them. And then there's an outward-facing academics website on the FNESU site for parents and other outside people to see what it looks like. This is just that's not mine.
That's not us.
Nope. It's just that's the last slide.
Okay.
That's the rest
Slide
of the
template.
template.
Okay.
So, thanks. And
Thank you.
any other questions? Oh, I would like to address the question about what are we gonna do if kids didn't get it. So I think we've thought a lot about that. The courses next year all have indicators attached to them, more than one. So this year we focused on just one, but next year they have 2 to 3 attached to them. So students will have opportunities to both continue to work on the foundational 8 if they didn't get it, and achieve other ones as well. And I think Jessie is a good example of how there's can be a lot of indicators in one project or one thing. So it's not unusual for kids to do a summative assessment and get more than one indicator. I think you can probably think of a few projects that had multiple indicators attached to them. So I don't think any of us are super worried about whether or not kids will be able to do it. I think Lynn's point is good. They don't have to take a whole nother class that's completely different in order to get the indicators. I think the communication piece and it's okay for kids to feel a little bit of the struggle. We want them to feel a little bit of tension there. We don't want kids feeling like they can't reach a goal. So that concerns me more than whether or not they will actually be able to achieve it. We don't want them to feel like they are complete failures, right? We want them to feel like, okay, I'm having a little bit of a struggle, but I can get through it. So I think we need to work on that piece with the communication. Right.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, principal's report. Kelly?
Yeah, mine is all informational, but there is one thing that is not on here that I did want to bring to the board. It's a request to move Lisa Conger, who is a math interventionist, from our titles funding into the local budget. So we have 3 classroom teacher positions that we did not fill this year. So we have downsized our teaching positions. We have downsized some paraeducator positions and how we're using paras also. We have a teaching structure, a team teaching structure with a professional staff that includes our interventionists, that allows them to plan together for instruction for a large chunk of time every week. And the interventionists provide not just pull out intervention services for individual students or small groups of students, but they work right alongside with classroom teachers. They're in the classroom for the whole literacy block or the whole math block, providing multiple levels of instruction. So we've really designed our certified instructional teams to really fit within our MTSS system. So, you know, we know that moving forward, our grant titles money is up in the air. And I have some incredibly skilled people. Lisa is a 2-time VMI grad, so that's, you know, first time for just straight up her math masters and the second time for leadership in mathematics. And so she's also doing a lot of the leadership role. She's only been with us for a couple of years, but she's a highly skilled person and definitely don't want to lose her. So as we have those 3 open positions, are positions that had been, you know, budgeted for, I thought this might be, and all things lining up, this might be the most appropriate time to move her into the local budget.
Morgan, do you need a motion for that?
Probably a good idea.
Okay. Do you have any issues with that? No?
No.
Okay.
Solid plan.
All right, if no way, any other questions? Entertain a motion to.
I'll make the motion.
Sarah makes the motion. Akua?
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Josh?
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Thank you.
Beth?
Mine's all informational. I just wanted to add about the carnival that I put in the principal's report that my middle school planned for the neighboring FNESU middle schools to attend. It was a great exhibition of learning. It was an authentic experience for the other students in Franklin Northeast. They did a great job. I was really proud of them. I wish that it happened before we had to have the board notes in, but there's some really good pictures on Facebook if you have a chance to take a look. I think it was a good experience for everybody.
My students went and they had a really fun time. It was great. It's very fun.
Yeah, and they actually, there's a sign on Facebook that with the connection to Portrait of a Learner and how it connected. So if you have a chance to look at our Facebook page. That's good. Do so.
Thanks. Kelly? I mean, Jen? Jen?
No, Kelly can go again. No, all informational, but I just wanted to celebrate that we've been doing a lot of community events, and especially at the end of the year. Kim recently, the 5th grade always ends the year with reaching out to community, and Kim took a group of kids to the Bridges of Light, and they plant flowers, and it's appreciated by many community members, but we really appreciate you leading that.
Well, in this group, because I don't know how many years Lisa Rocktoy and I have been doing it, but this group, this is their 2nd time doing it. We don't always do 5th grade, but this group had been before, so some of them had been over there in a younger grade. That's cool.
Okay, Matt?
All informational, and we kind of had our celebration with Jesse, so thanks for your support for that. Yeah.
Nate?
All informational, I did have a Perkins budget thing on there, but that's gonna be taken care of tomorrow at a RAB meeting. So the only other thing would be, there is a senior barbecue celebrating our seniors tomorrow. So if you guys are in Enosburg and wanna stop by around noon, you can have lunch with our garden club all the crews and our seniors in Enosburg-Richford.
All right, thanks. Okay, board business, you wanna do the, okay.
So, go ahead.
Oh, okay, so we'll go right to the film, right, yeah. The end of
So
the-
we wanted to take a moment to just celebrate all of the hard work that went into this school year. So there's so much has been done by our teachers, by our leaders, by our community members. We wanted to take a minute to just celebrate kids, because that's what it's all about. And sometimes when you're in this, like it's kind of fitting that this came after the conversation of Portrait of a Learner, because kind of the struggle of that kind of felt like it defined a good chunk of this year. But I don't want us to lose sight as a community that even though we are a system that is really low spending comparatively, we do some pretty incredible things for our students. So I want to thank Courtney for putting together this celebration video for the Enosburg-Richford district.
Fall is here, hear the yell, back to school, ring the bell, brand new shoes, walking blues, climb the fence, books and pens, I can tell that we are gonna be friends. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. Walk with me, Susie Lee, through the park, by the tree, we will rest upon the ground. Look at all the bugs we found. Safely walk to school without a sound. Safely walk to school without a sound.
Well, here we are, no one else. We walk to school all by ourselves. There's dirt on our uniforms from chasing all the ants and worms. We clean up and now it's time to learn. We clean up and now it's time to learn.
Numbers, letters, learn to spell. Nouns and books, show and tell. Playtime, we will throw the ball. Back to class, through the hall. Teacher marks our height against the wall. Teacher marks our height against the wall. We don't notice any time pass. We don't notice anything. We sit side by side in every class. Teacher thinks that I sound funny, but she likes the way you sing. Tonight I'll dream while I'm in bed. Silly thoughts run through my head about the bugs and alphabet. When I wake tomorrow I'll bet you and I will walk together again. I can tell that we are gonna be friends. Yes, I can tell that we are gonna be friends.
May you have auspiciousness and causes of success. May you have the confidence to always do your best. May it take no effort in your being generous, sharing what you can, nothing more, nothing less. May you know the meaning of the word happiness. May you always lead from the beating in your chest. May you be treated like an esteemed guest. May you get to rest, may you catch your breath. Or may the best of your todays be the worst of your tomorrows. Whoa! Or may the road less paved be the road that you follow. Oh, well, here's to the hearts that you're gonna break. Here's to the lives that you're gonna change. Here's to the infinite possible ways to love you. I want you to have it. Here's to the good times we're gonna have. You don't need money, you got a free pass. Here's to the fact that I'll be sad without you. I want you to have it all. May you be as fascinating as a slap bracelet. May you keep the chaos and the clutter off your desk. May you have unquestionable health and less stress. Having no possessions though immeasurable wealth. May you get a gold star on your next test. May your educated guesses always be correct. And may you win prizes shining like diamonds. May you really own it each moment to the next. Or may the best of your todays be the worst of your tomorrows. Whoa! Or may the road less paved be the road that you follow. Oh, well, here's to the hearts that you're gonna break. Here's to the lives that you're gonna change. Here's to the infinite possible ways to love you. I want you to have it. Here's to the good times we're gonna have. You don't need money, you got a free pass. Here's to the fact that I'll be sad without you. I want you to have it all. I want you to have it all. I promises. If you believe it, then anything can happen. Go, 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 raise your glasses. Go, 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 you can have it all. I told you, here's to the hearts that you're gonna break. Here's to the lives that you're gonna change. Here's to the infinite possible ways to love you. I want you to have it. Here's to the good times we're gonna have. You don't need money, you got a free pass. Here's to the fact that I'd be sad without you. I want you to have it all. I want you to have it all. I want you to have it. I want you to have it all. I want you to have it. Here's to the good times we gonna have. Here's to you always making me laugh. Here's to the fact that I'd be sad without you. I want you to have it all. I want you to have it. Here's to the good times we gonna have.
Nice job.
Any other board business?
Good music too.
And I'll entertain a motion on executive.
For student.
For students.
Student.
Rachel made the motion.
Aye.
Josh?
Beth,
Akua?
I'll be there Friday night. For graduation.
The reception for, what was the question?
I'm,
Motion to go into executive.
no, I am. I'm on, yeah.
I heard.
6:30? I should be
Get
there.
there about 6:30.
Okay. Leave the building.
You got everybody?
Yeah.
So I think that we only need to keep Matt for this, and I think we can let everybody else go.
Lynn, do you want me to stay to lock up the building? I'll
Do
lock.
you have any custodians here?
I do, but I don't know if he'll be here as long.
Motion to have the board chair act upon the decision of the outcome of the executive session.
Make the motion.
Sarah made a motion. Rachel?
Aye.
Josh? Aye. Cora?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Okay, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion.
Rich made the motion. Sarah?
Aye.
Josh? Aye. Cora?
Aye.